What's up, YouTubers? So before we get started with this video, on Get Up, they're going to be talking about some comments Patrick Mahomes made about going 20-0 this season, undefeated. So let's see what they have to say about that.
To be clear, no one has gone 19-0. A team that when the Dolphins went the perfect season, they went 17-0 because the regular season was only 14 games then. But Rob Ninkovich, you weren't on the Patriot team that won their first 18 games, but I know from all the guys you played with that you have an interesting perspective on this.
So all teams strive to go undefeated. Now, is that realistic? Probably not. But I think Patrick Mahomes might be onto something here, especially with the high quality team that he has.
Yeah, I think that being undefeated, really, we all go into the season saying, yeah, you want to win every game, but being undefeated is an unnecessary pressure. And I can remember back to, 2010, 2011, when you would just lose your first game, it was like a relief just knowing, okay, well, all that undefeated stuff, everyone outside the building can stop talking about it because it can really put a certain stress on you that really you don't need it. I mean, if you think about the 2007 Patriots, I'm sure everybody on that roster would say that they'd rather have lost the regular season game than losing that one game in the Super Bowl is probably more devastating than anything else you could think of. So for me, I get it. I mean, I love the competitiveness of Patrick Mahomes, but to say 20-0, it really puts a pressure on your team that in today's game, it's not necessary to even win every game. I know you never say that, but at one point in the season, if you lose one game and slip up, you learn from that mistake. You'd rather lose in the regular season than in the playoffs or especially the Super Bowl. So I just think that 20-0, yeah, it's great to say it, but I think it's just unrealistic.
So I think Patrick Mahomes has the right mentality here. So does it put a lot of pressure on the team to try and go undefeated? Yes, it does. But that's where if you have a high-powered, high-quality team, it could almost come natural for your team to try and go undefeated. I mean, if you're beating up on teams week in and week out, that was not too far of a stretch to say that you guys could possibly go undefeated if your team is good enough. Now, like I said, you have to have a high-powered, high-quality team to be able to do that. So let's take a quick look at the Kansas City Chiefs' schedule from last year, or record from last year. So they went 14-2. The two teams that they lost to were to the Raiders and to the Chargers. If they would have cleaned up their act, if they would have focused a little bit more, they could have definitely beat the Raiders. And when they played against the Chargers in the last game of the year last year, Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing. So out of the two games that they lost last year, they definitely could have, if they would have buckled down and focused, they definitely could have beat the Raiders and the Chargers. And it's not unrealistic to think that they could have gone undefeated last year, at least in the regular season. And I think they have a great chance of doing that this year too. So definitely, if they have minimal injuries, if they're minding P's and Q's, if they take it week by week, if they focus each week, that's not too far of a stretch to say that they could possibly go undefeated, at least for the regular season.
Dominique, what do you think?
I think for teams like this, you got to find ways to motivate yourself. And I know losing in the Super Bowl is enough motivation, but from week to week, we saw them last year playing close games with teams that we thought they were better than, and even lose to teams that we thought that they were much better than. So I imagine part of this might help them from a motivational standpoint, but I understand what Rob is saying. It's an emotional tax. Every week, the pressure ramps up. And we talk about like physical exhaustion, and we don't talk as much about psychological and emotional exhaustion. And I imagine that if you get to week 10 and you haven't lost, get to week 14, you haven't lost, you're at week 18, you haven't lost. There's a lot of pressure, and that's even before you get to the playoffs. And then the pressure keeps ramping up. And I think that you could get to a point where you are quite taxed by the time you get to that championship game emotionally more than physically.
So again, that's where it comes into play, where you have a high quality, high powered football team that by the time you get to the playoffs, you're able to weather going week in and week out, and you're beating up on teams. So you have no problem, trying to run the table. Especially looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, the offense has gotten better because last year in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes had no time to do anything, and that's part of the reason why they lost in the Super Bowl. So you don't think that the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have been plotting and scheming this whole offseason to be able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? You don't think they've been plotting and scheming to come up and try to run the table? You don't think that they're mad about that loss? You don't think they're highly motivated and highly charged? Yes, I think the Kansas City Chiefs have all the ingredients that they need to be able to try and come in and run the table, at least during the regular season. They can definitely take care of business. Again, they need to have minimal injuries. Everything needs to work out for them. They need to mind their P's and Q's. They need to take it week by week. And I think they have a great opportunity to be able to run the table with the type of team that they have and the type of quarterback that they have. I think they could possibly do it. Now, is it realistic? Probably not. But if there's a team that has all the tools to be able to do it, I think the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have the ability to do it.
And Jeremy Fowler, you were telling us in our meeting this morning, the Chiefs believe they are markedly better than they were when they walked off the field at the end of the Super Bowl. Why is that?
Yeah, Green, Mahomes is probably riding high off of OTAs and seeing his team in person and those big new offensive linemen getting excited. Because I asked around to some Chiefs people, they said, look, we need to get our edge back. We just simply weren't as good of a roster as we thought we were. You go to 2 Super Bowls, it's just not enough. So they loaded up in the draft and free agency. And there was a sense last week like, okay, we don't know exactly where this is going to go. But as far as overall talent, we're in the best place we've been in a very long time.
Yeah, so Dominique, quickly back to you. The pressure is what the pressure is. Wanting it is whatever it is. Assuming you go on the field every single week trying to win a football game, and this year being the 1 seed is more important than it's ever been in the history of the league. Dominique, can they do it?
I think they can. Yeah, I think it's a long shot, obviously, because chances are they're going to slip up one time or another. But I think that they have been the best team in football for the past 3 years. Even though they haven't won the Super Bowl every year, they've probably been the best team in large part because of how good Patrick Mahomes is. I think a lot of people are going to pick them to win the Super Bowl coming into the season. And they're likely to be favorites in every game they play. So absolutely, they can win every game. Should they want to? It's a different question.